President Putin is not interested in peace. President Zelensky wants to see peace in Ukraine. President Trump wants to see peace in Ukraine. I thought President Putin did. President Zelensky said, sure, I'm with you. Just like he'd said previously, I agree to a ceasefire, Mr. President. President Putin said, I'll agree to a ceasefire in the Black Sea, but I want conditions. I want conditions. And you know what his conditions are? To have the United States of America remove the sanctions on the Russian economy.
Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a real gem for you. We're diving into a recent speech by none other than Senator John Kennedy. Now, if you don't know who he is, let me fill you in. He's one of the most no-nonsense, common-sense politicians in Washington, D.C. who is always willing to speak truth to power. In this speech, he tackles an issue that's critical to our national security and our role in the world. Our relationship with Russia and the complete disrespect shown by President Vladimir Putin toward the United States of America. You know, as a right-wing patriot, I stand firm on the belief that America should always lead with strength. And when I hear Senator Kennedy lay out the facts, I can't help but feel like it's time for us to take a hard look at how we're conducting ourselves on the world stage, especially when it comes to dealing with foreign adversaries like Russia. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not surprised by what Putin's doing. He's a dictator. That's how they operate. But what really gets under my skin is how the Biden administration and some other establishment politicians continue to sit back and let it happen. Let's dive in and break this down together.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to spend a few minutes first, Madam President, talking about Russia. To get respect, you have to act respectfully. To be taken seriously, you have to act seriously. We know that. It's a matter of common sense. President Putin in Russia is not acting with respect toward the United States of America or President Trump. President Putin is not acting seriously. I don't know a single fair-minded person with an IQ above his age who doesn't want peace in Ukraine. Could we have order, Madam President? Thank you, Madam President. We all want to see peace in Ukraine. President Zelensky wants to see peace in Ukraine. President Trump wants to see peace in Ukraine. I thought President Putin did. I'm beginning to wonder. President Trump, who is leading these negotiations, first asked for a ceasefire. He said for 30 days, maybe 45, 60 days, I'm asking both Russia and Ukraine to lay down their arms. President Putin said, no, I won't agree to a blanket ceasefire, but I will stop bombing infrastructure in Ukraine. He lied like he breathed. He continued to destroy civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Then President Trump said, okay, let's try for a ceasefire in the Black Sea. That would benefit both Ukraine and Russia, who both of which use the Black Sea for maritime commerce. And indeed, the world depends on a lot of the grain that they both export. So President Trump said, let's try for a ceasefire in the Black Sea and maritime security in the Black Sea. President Zelensky said, sure, I'm with you. Just like he'd said previously, I agree to a ceasefire, Mr. President. President Putin said, I'll agree to a ceasefire in the Black Sea, but I want conditions. I want conditions. And you know what his conditions are? To to have the United States of America remove the sanctions on the Russian economy. And then, to make matters worse, President Putin said, oh, by the way, I have one other condition. I want to put the people of Ukraine and the government of Ukraine under the administration of the United Nations. In other words, he wants the people of Ukraine to give up their democratic form of government and be run by the United Nations. And then finally, President Putin said to President Trump, oh yeah, there's one other thing too. Before I'll agree to a ceasefire in the Black Sea, or a ceasefire generally, I don't want to just negotiate with you, President Trump, President Putin said. He said, I want China to be part of the negotiations, and India, and Brazil, and South Africa. And get this, this will curdle your lunch, North Korea. Mama Gump said that stupid is as stupid does. President Putin is not interested in peace.
Folks, there you have it. Right off the bat, Senator Kennedy is laying down the truth. President Putin is showing no respect for the United States. Zero. Nada. And the sad part? He knows exactly what he's doing. This isn't just some diplomatic faux pas. It's a calculated move to undermine our strength and project his own. Let's not forget, Putin has been flexing his muscles for years. He's been interfering in elections, undermining our allies, and causing chaos. And yet, we're supposed to just sit here and let him keep doing it? But here's where I really agree with Kennedy. For respect to be given, it must first be earned. And Putin has shown time and time again that he doesn't care about diplomacy or peace. He only cares about power, his power. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We all know President Trump was a deal maker. He knew how to negotiate from a position of strength. And here's the kicker. President Trump actually tried to get some peace in Ukraine, and what did Putin do? He rejected it. And I'm not just talking about a minor rejection. He outright refused any form of ceasefire. What? Because let's face it, Putin doesn't want peace. He wants control. You know, this isn't surprising to me. When we had President Trump in office, Russia thought twice before making any moves. We had energy independence, a strong military, and a president who was not afraid to put America's interests first. But now, with Biden in the White House, Putin sees weakness, and that's exactly what he's exploiting. Of course, Putin didn't stop bombing Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. He's a liar, plain and simple. And let's be honest, the mainstream media won't call it what it is. This is the behavior of a dictator who has zero regard for human life. It's all about power, control, and his twisted vision of Russia's dominance. But here's the thing. This is what happens when you show weakness on the global stage. When you don't call out dictators for what they are, they push even harder. And trust me, if we don't stand firm, Putin will keep testing us. We can't allow that to happen. Unbelievable. So now Putin wants the United States to lift sanctions on Russia in exchange for a ceasefire? Are you kidding me? This man has the audacity to think he can hold us hostage with these ridiculous demands. And here's where I part ways with the establishment. Lifting sanctions is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. Sanctions are what hold Putin accountable. They hurt him, they hurt his oligarchs, they hurt his regime. Lifting them would be like giving him a free pass to keep causing havoc around the world. Listen, we don't negotiate with terrorists, dictators, or tyrants. We stand firm, we support our allies, and we defend our way of life. That's what makes America great, folks. Now this is rich. Putin wants to strip Ukraine of its sovereignty and put it under United Nations control. This is a blatant attempt to take away Ukraine's freedom and self-determination. And let's be real, the United Nations isn't exactly a beacon of strength or integrity. In fact, they've often sided with the wrong people in global conflicts. The last thing Ukraine needs is to be put under the control of an organization that can't even keep its own house in order. It's time we stop pretending that the United Nations has any real authority when it comes to dealing with global threats. America needs to take the lead here, just like we did under President Trump. And here's where things get downright absurd. Putin wants to drag China, India, Brazil, South Africa, and North Korea into peace talks? I mean, really? These are countries with their own agendas, some of which don't even align with what's good for America or the West. This is just another attempt to weaken the West and strengthen Putin's influence over these countries. And don't even get me started on North Korea. You know, we've got a rogue regime over there that's constantly threatening our allies and our interests, and Putin thinks they should be at the table? This is what happens when you don't stand firm and make your adversaries respect you. Folks, we are living in a time when strength, resolve, and a commitment to American values matter more than ever. President Putin isn't interested in peace, he's interested in power. And as long as we show any hint of weakness, he will continue to push his agenda. We need leaders in this country who are not afraid to stand up to dictators and show them that we will not back down. I stand with Senator John Kennedy in calling out Putin for what he is: a liar, a manipulator, and a dictator who only respects strength. It's time we remember who we are, proud Americans, and start acting like it on the world stage. The only way to protect our way of life is to stop letting these tyrants push us around. So, let's stand strong, fight for peace, and make sure that we always put America first. Thanks for watching, Patriots. If you agree with what I'm saying, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going and remind the world who we are: strong, proud, and always ready to defend freedom. God bless America.